what you think about Brazil, because their election is in October. What are your thoughts? Because the challenger, the basically the right wing challenger, is Bolsonaro's son, who's a senator. Are
Honestly, honestly, I haven't heard of that contest too much. It hasn't popped up in any of my feeds. Um, is he the one that came to the United States and asked for assistance from Trump? Because if it's that one there, he has a pretty good chance.
Yeah, but
Okay.
Bolsonaro was president between 2019 and 2023, and so
Yeah.
now his son is a senator who's challenging. I can't remember the guy's name, but
Yeah.
he's challenging him in the October presidential
Yeah.
election.
So yeah, it's he has a good chance then, because they also have the drug problem
Yeah,
there as far as the cartels. So it's, if that goes and South America turns in their own terms blue,
mhm.
okay, all the way across, you're going to have Mexico squeezed in between the two, and they're going to have to make a decision as to how long those cartels are going to last. Of course, it could also push all the cartels into Mexico too, which makes Mexico a very dangerous country to live in. So it all depends. It all depends on what happens and how they're handled.
I can say that Lula has around 40% and Bolsonaro, between 40 and 42, and Bolsonaro has, around 36%. So this is not decided. This is very much a possibility, especially because these things tend to underreport the right and overreport the left. Like much of it's very common in these stats. So I wouldn't be surprised. Also, during the time of Bolsonaro, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's the one that was for Second Amendment type things, so that people could defend themselves from the criminal element there. Because around there, the only people that were allowed to have guns were the people who didn't care about the law, and that created a very, very, very strong cartel. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is also the guy that went into the favelas, which is like the ghetto, basically, the barrio, the trailer park, whatever you want to call it, like the bad areas, and had a hard hand. And what this tells me is, look, if you like what Bukele did, and Bolsonaro was Bolsonaro Senior had that mentality and actually did those kinds of actions, I wouldn't put it at, I'm like 50-50, but it could go red. It could go red.
Okay, Armin is next.
I had a question. So with regards to Marco Rubio and his ability to connect with all of the leaders of these countries, especially now that they're more right-leaning, would you say that America's movement towards, I don't know, the Monroe or Redundro doctrine, and focusing more on its own hemisphere, would be, the fact that Marco Rubio's ability and knowledge and connection? I think the answer is an obvious yes, but I just wanted to hear you guys. Would that really help United States? Because I think United States under any president is like moving more into this direction to focus more on their hemisphere. Wouldn't that mean that Marco Rubio would be ideal for this transition because of the requirements of maintaining a relationship with all the countries in the Western Hemisphere? How influential is that?
Okay, I'll answer that one first, and then Monkey can add to it. When he was talking about the combination of all Latin American countries, is because we are educated in Castellano, which is the main language of Central Spain. That's all the education systems in all of South America and Central America and in the Caribbean for Spanish speakers have. Yes, when the people saw what was done in Venezuela, okay, immediately all the left-wing governments started beefing up their guards, extra training, giving them more ammunition and stuff because they thought they were next. And you started seeing people from within the governments or lower in the governments asking the United States for help to get rid of the narcos. Then you had Cuba, because once Venezuela was taken out, Cuba was made impotent without the oil. and they're still having problems to this day. And that plan that Cuba released, that's a joke. They've done it before, and there's a French multimillionaire that became a pauper because he decided to open a couple of restaurant chains there, and the Cuban government made him pay for everything and kept all the profit. That's how Gaesa was born. So nobody believes it's going to work if they try it again. Then you got the fact that Rubio is a Castellano. He speaks Castellano. So with the educated class, he speaks their tongue. Because there's a lot of differences with all the different dialects of Spanish in South and Central America. Okay. But Castellano is what the educated people are taught. Sketch, all yours.
All right. There's a couple of factors here. One is the loss of USAID. It was discovered that USAID was funding a lot of leftist organizations in these, just like the NGOs from China were funding a whole bunch of universities here. The USA and was funneling a lot of this, well, to the Democrat, but also it was funneling a lot of stuff into South America. The loss of USA was an economic disaster for the left wing in Central and South America. This is like it's talked about in Central and South America. Like this is something that's known because they were paying for all kinds of LGBTQ stuff, like racial oppression, class type stuff, and it turned a lot of these governments. You didn't really have to do a lot to get the funding. It was basically embezzling, and it was like learning centers, that type of thing. Well, but it was going all into leftist people and leftist government, and they had their own little circle thing going around, right? That was a great help. And also, you have to understand that if I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to go against the narcos, but I need USA intel and support so that I don't get whacked by these guys, because these guys will kill me. Like I'll turn to you, because you know what? These companies from China, they were taking our resources and giving us practically nothing for it. These companies in Russia, China, all these, we were offshoring all our and friendshoring to the communist bloc, and all they did was steal. We might as well do it with the Americans, because we get more benefits, we get a better cut, we get a better system, we get stuff that actually works. We don't have tofu direct construction. There's a lot of tofu direct construction in South America. They did it a lot in Africa, but they also did it a lot in Latin America. There was ports that were built by China that are terrible. And that's why the Belt and Road Initiative from China is failing in a lot of places. It's also failing all over South America. It's not just the cartels. That's a big part, though. It's not just the economics. That's a big part, though. It's also the resources and the USA side, and being able to have America help you protect yourself from the cartel, because there's only like you don't want to be the world police, but you can't have cartels turning your southern hemisphere into a narco state, especially if it's a narco state that's basically under the control of the communist bloc. So there's multiple layers to this, but all this is leading to most of South America turning what we call red pill or like blue. Like they call red communist there. We call red pill, like we call the red pill here, but basically going against communism and towards free market.
All right, guys, so I need to go, so I'm just going to read I know you guys could continue the conversation after me, so just going to read the super chat, and then you guys could keep talking about this, because I know you all wants to speak as well, but I need to go. Hezi with a super chat saying, I just realized both Israel and the Islamic Republic, or both Israel and the Islamic Republic, the role of the president is symbolic and powerless. Well, the difference is that the president in Israel is supposed to be symbolic based on the constitution, but within the Islamic Republic, the constitution says that the president has a lot of powers, and he doesn't. And also, in Israel, it's not completely symbolic. I know the president has some abilities, right? Yeah. And also within the Islamic Republic, the president is supposed to be the head of the executive branch. So he's supposed to have executive power. But within Israel, the prime minister is the head of the executive branch. So that role is for the prime minister. But yeah, interesting thought though, Ezzy. Thank you for the super chat.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.